Hi, please welcome all the way from sunny Manchester. It's going to be Kim Riley and Kenny Cliffe from Light 4 Cundall, and they'd like to speak about the death of the eraser. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So we are living in a digital future. Are we living at the time of the death of the eraser? This is our UK team for Cundall Light 4. I'm Kenny, this is Kim.
First and foremost, we are not engineers. We are creative thinkers. There's always reasoning behind everything we design and produce. Design and engineering often go hand in hand. Engineers primarily take an analytical approach, whereas designers primarily take a creative approach.
So what are the benefits of creatives using digital engineering software to enhance their designs? We began by assessing our own traditional process in order to acknowledge key design areas where digital design could aid us. This was for our Vivid project, a light installation in Australia. Like Vivid, we begin all of our projects in the same way. Several of us gathered around a table, talking and sketching. The more people, the better to challenge a natural flow of idea generation and be able to challenge ideas. This will always lead to a narrative which we come back to time and time again.
Inevitably, we sketch as we talk, and quite often the final design can't be seen on the initial sketching. But this does help us to eliminate what is not the way forward, as well as highlight the way forward. This process is all about finding the key images, albeit they will never be a perfect picture, as they will not be precisely the client's space or solution. These are purely precedent images. As a whole, idea generation usually takes around a day, and this process will never change, as this leads us to the design concept.
Ooh. The next stage is the optioneering process. Bending and stretching that narrative, using imagery for inspiration and checking what will and won't work within that space.
So the options you are seeing on screen shows different designs for bespoke luminaires for Project Sainsbury's. Project Sainsbury's was a digital hub located in a basement with limited access to daylight. For one element in the project, we used the traditional optioneering of hand sketching to design a number of suspended office luminaires. Designing by hand uses the trial and error approach, and generally the eraser gets well used. This is commonly the longest process and takes a few days. Renders are then produced, placing the selected option into the client's space ahead of presenting the process and final option. You can often find yourself sent back to the optioneering point at this stage, where the method is then repeated.
This was the final installation of the staircase pendant for Project Sainsbury's, staying true to that original narrative. This was another one of the options that we use in a different area.
So the question is, how can digital design reduce the amount of hours spent on the optioneering process? And perhaps we think about how else digital design can help us aid the creative process.
This is where it gets a bit more interesting. We took Project Sainsbury's to determine our hours spent optioneering digitally in comparison to optioneering in the traditional way, which takes a few days. We took the original geometry, creating and developing patterns, shapes and positions with an infinite number of options, sticking to that original narrative with the ability to progress the design even further. Through this, we discovered that it was a great tool with the ability to with the flexibility of options, with the ability to refine and tailor the final solution to give a better outcome.
So the script was written within only a few hours, where infinite options within the defined parameters can be demonstrated and extracted.
So our team branches all over the world, so collaboration and communication are key. Having a digital design that can be demonstrated by others within our team. With this in mind, we opted to introduce digital optioneering to a live project collaborating with our team in Australia.
Moon to Street is a project based in Adelaide. The approach touches on Asian trade, which makes you think of food, spices and vibrant colours. Moon to Street was the ideal project to trial the optioneering process. With the design consisting of a large number of suspended envelopes and luminaires distributed across a long street, it became evident that there could be endless options for their positioning. Ideas were still generated by hand, but options were then presented digitally.
This digital process is the same as it was for Sainsbury's. It involves writing a grasshopper script such that we can test the scale of options, quantity of luminaires, objects, relevant positions of those objects, density, colour and so forth. The biggest difference is rather than 12 fixed ideas as you would get with hand sketching, we have an infinite number of options that can be viewed in real time. For this project, we got down to the final 2. This presentation was done directly to the client, ultimately leading us to win the project. The outcome is the same as the traditional process. A render is produced to visualize the concept. This is what the client normally sees. However, through the digital process on this project, the client was able to be involved in the optioneering process. This ultimately gives them a more refined design and also eliminates the second optioneering process. Following the success of digital optioneering on Moon to Street, we questioned how else digital scripting could help us creatively, which leads us on to our rollercoaster project.
We became involved in a rollercoaster project where we challenged the norm. Our aim was to illuminate the track by mounting luminaires onto the spine of the rollercoaster. This will create an even and consistent lighting effect, which we opted for as part of our brief. Due to the cylindrical shape of the track, angling the fittings would have been really tricky, and trying to implement this into a lighting calculation software would have been very difficult. Also, with the track being 750 metres in length, it quickly became apparent that this would be a hugely time-consuming process. So we needed to determine the luminaire quantity, the mounting position, and the visual impact of what we were trying to achieve. So we opted for a digital implementation. So a script was written to position the luminaires at every upstand along the track. We needed this to angle them precisely so that it was created that even and consistent lighting effect that we were looking for. So this script provided us with that, and it met our original brief. In addition, the luminaire quantity was also extracted very easily, and this process that would have taken us a few weeks took only a couple of hours. The results provide a far greater and more refined solution than it would do if it was done by manually. On the back of this, the Revit team extracted this information and inputted this directly into their model, and this saved huge amounts of time.
Since this was produced, both the model and track have been updated. The script allows us to automatically reposition the luminaires along the new track to suit the new model. So, we knew the outcome we wanted, so we tailored a script to do exactly what we wanted. The outcome far exceeded what we could have done manually, while also being far more efficient.
So to summarise, first and foremost, digital optioneering provides the client with infinite options which can be changed and manipulated in front of them. They tend to then become more involved in the design process, which in turn eliminates that second optioneering process. The time saving becomes secondary, albeit very beneficial. This allows the design team to utilise this on another aspect of the project. On the other hand, digital implementation is used to primarily save time for all the design team. The results far exceed what we could produce manually, and this in turn makes this a good solution. Should something seem a hugely time-consuming task, perhaps we think about, can I implement this digitally?
Great design is born of ideas generated by people, tested with analysis and evidence with data. Let's be sure to remember this is a creative process to give better outcomes for our clients.
Thank you.
Thank you.